there will be another.
With cleaning chapter.
Where is cleaning chapter will be? So we had to start from the cleaning chapter, no? Okay. The cleaning method is the core practice of heartfulness. The purpose is to free us from patterns of thinking, emotional reactivity, and behavioral tendency. Please underline these two lines. So, core practice of heartfulness. So, what does it do? It actually frees us from the patterns of thinking, behavioral tendencies, and emotional reactivity. So, you have to see whether these things are manifesting in you. It means if you are doing cleaning properly, these things should also manifest. Otherwise, you are not doing the cleaning properly. The results of the cleaning are tangible and immediate. In my experience, using the method for even a few minutes it can have profound effects. I have found that it can instantly change my attitude, lift my mood, and broaden my perspective. Again, have you experienced any of these lifting of the mood, changing the attitude, or broadening of your perspective? That's something that we have to check in practice. Over the years, it has often helped me to disentangle myself from various thought patterns, strong emotions, and even compulsive behaviors. Now, that's very similar to the first sentence. What does the purpose of the cleaning is? One of the reasons that the cleaning is so effective is that it addresses both the symptoms and the cause. Underline that. What is it that addresses both the symptoms and the cause? And the example in a prashna bandhara, then it is cleaning. Many people will write meditation because for them that is what it is. So it not only frees us from the effect of the mental and emotional complexity, but also removes it from the root. How exactly does the cleaning method contribute to our transformation? I asked. So remember, meditation is also a tool for transformation. Cleaning is also a tool for transformation. Prayer is also a tool for transformation. All of them work in tandem with one another. Okay. Now let us understand the problem that we face. He said, we observe that when the water flows continuously over the same ground, it slowly carves out a channel for itself. Underline that, the channel. This example is also given by Babuji in one of the complete works. Eventually, it can become a gushing river. Similarly, when we repeatedly think about something, our thought carves out a channel in our mind. Whenever our thought moves there, it deepens the channel, easing the way for our thought to flow in this again and again. In this way, a single thought can develop into a tendency of thinking. Please underline this. The channel formation, a single thought getting converted into a tendency of thinking. So, Gopal Krishna, continue reading now. Let me just finish my coffee.
Yes.
You need to be a bit louder and you need to come to the front. Otherwise, as in IT, you're always laid back.
Our minds
A
contain
bit
an
more louder. We can't hear.
um just 1 second. It should be better now.
Yeah, better now.
Yes. Our minds contain an untold number of such channels. They form a vast and complex network. When our thinking is confined to these beaten pathways, it becomes narrow and repetitive. We become more particular in our tastes and hardened in our opinions. As thought begets action, our mental tendencies further develop into behavioral habits.
So, thoughts leading to actions, action leading to behavioral tendency. So, that's the sequence. Thoughts begets actions, repeated actions, then gives rise to behavioral tendency. So, when we clean, all these three things should change. So, initially, the flow of the water will decrease. then until unless the channel itself is demolished, we have not finished the work of cleaning. So becoming fully clean means all the channels are now gone. The network of channels that we formed within are gone. That is what the cleaning is. So when we reach a stage when the entire network of channels are gone, then you say that you have reached a highest level of purity. Purity is nothing but the number of channels in the system coming down. So if the network is full of intricate channels in all directions, then we are very impure because it distorts our view, vikshepa. When the channels come down, it's kind of plain and simple. Whatever it is, we experience it as it is without the interference of the channels. Now it's the channels that gives rise to repeated thinking, action, and behavioral tendency. So any of these three things can color our outlook or experience of life. Does it make sense? So until unless the channel is demolished, then we have not taken out the root of the problem. And that takes time. The flow can be reduced pretty easily, but demolishing the channel takes time. Okay, go ahead.
A tendency has its own momentum. It cannot be broken so
Underline that.
easily.
Underline that. Mind has a own momentum. Tendency also has a own momentum, and they need not be in tandem. Sometimes the mind has a particular tendency which is stronger than the other momentums, and then the mind can override that particular tendency. Say, for example, a person who is drinking for the first few times, the mind has a particular momentum and tendency. It can override the drinking. But as and when the drinking channel becomes so strong, then that develops far more momentum than the mind. So that's when we say that the mind is running this particular behavior is pulling us so much that even the mind cannot override it. That's exactly what happens when the tendencies go into the subconscious level and starts drawing energy by itself. See, initially, when it's at the conscious level and at the early part of the subconscious level, most of the tendencies can be overridden by the mind. You can change it there itself. So when you do not allow the channel to deepen, by not allowing the mind to flow in that channel, you can easily work on it and clear it off. The channel can be easily cleared off. Suppose there is in Bangalore, it's very difficult to find the mud or soil on which the water flows, the rainwater flows, because everywhere it is concrete. Little bit of mud, they put concrete. But anyway, so the thing is, when the channel formation is still shallow, see now it is flat bed. When the channel formation is still shallow, even if you just stamp on it, the channel goes away. Right? When the channel formation becomes deeper, then you require a lot of things to be filled in order to demolish the channel. So a lot of work needs to occur on the ground to demolish the channel. That's why it's very easy to revive the river bed. The river bed doesn't go anywhere. So suppose for a few years there is no water in the river, there's no rains in that area. The river bed remains as it is. It is not demolished. Nobody demolishes it. So when it rains the next year copiously, then automatically the water flows in that particular riverbed, where the riverbed is still intact. So many times people confuse this non-flowing of the water as thorough cleaning. No, until unless the channel itself is actually gone, demolished, it is not thorough cleaning. So temporary restriction in the flow of the water or the flow of the thought in that channel is not thorough cleaning as yet. Because the next set of circumstances, when the situation becomes ripe, the mind again flows in the same channel because the channel is still intact. So for you to develop that ability to experience newness in life, gradually the number of channels should come down. Okay. So it's not about just water not flowing in the channel, the number of channels should come down. Now, when we interact with people with all the channels intact, we call that as prejudice because we have already judged people from our perspective. When the channels come down, we actually stop judging people. That's all it is. It becomes easier to just interact with people as they are when the number of channels come down. That's all it is. Okay, go ahead now. Now the coffee is making channel inside. Go ahead.
Often we have trouble diverting the mind from its tendencies. Their pull is so strong. Instead, we usually fight with them. But that's like mud wrestling an oiled pig. There's no way to win. If you want to change yourself, you cannot focus on the thing you want to change.
Underline that. That line they'll give you and ask you whether it's true or false. Answer is false. As long as you focus on the thing that you want to change, you will never change. So that's exactly what happens in psychology. You have a problem and you want to solve the problem, and you go on thinking about the problem during the counseling. How are you going to ever feel better about it? How are you going to ever solve it? Because you are energizing the very thing that you want to get rid of by thinking about it. You are paying attention to the very thing, so you cannot actually get better. That's why one session of cleaning can do wonders, which even many sessions of counseling will not do. Does it make sense? In counseling, you focus on the very thing that you want to get rid of. How are you going to actually make it weaker by focusing on it? Hmm. You don't need to raise your hand. Your left hand movement itself shows that you are about to ask a question.
But I have seen cases where people have put out something and they have felt lighter.
That is,
So,
if you put out once and you feel lighter, because that is when you have actually suppressed a lot of things. So a lot of things are stored. So the first time you talk about it, you are actually ventilating certain things out of the mind. So you basically depressurize the mind of a particular thing by talking about it. In other words, the energy is released. When the energy is released from the thing that you have suppressed, you temporarily feel better. But suppose you go on repeating the same thing to 10 people now, you are forming more channels, you are forming more samskaras. So talking about your issues once makes sense, but repeatedly talking about the same issue is going to cause problem. In fact, deepen the problem. And this is one of the commonest mistakes that people do when people come to see psychology or psychiatrists. They repeatedly tell the same problem. Within 5 minutes, they would have repeated the symptoms 5 to 10 minutes, 10 times. Because they feel there is this sense in the mind that somehow they have not conveyed the problem adequately to the psychologist or the psychiatrist. So they go on repeating it. And without knowledge, they are making the problem worse. By repeating it, you are paying more attention to it again, you are energizing it, it go deeper. So many times you have to tell the patients, don't repeat the problems multiple times because you will require a lot more dose of medication to get rid of it. Right? Because once you have deepened it, obviously you require more dose. So ventilating once or twice is okay, not beyond that. Okay? So when you ventilate once or twice, the suppressed energy and the emotional content of that is kind of poured out. So that kind of makes the mind feel a bit light temporarily. Sometimes, if you actually talk to somebody who has a broader perspective, maybe that opens up the space by the feedback given. By once you ventilate, the thing is emptied of the energy or emotions. So now there is some space created in the mind. And when you talk to somebody who has a broader perspective, they might give you some ideas which might actually work as a solution to your problem. That also can happen, but that depends on who you are talking to. If somebody can only listen, to that extent you unburden yourself, where you relieve the emotional content or the energy content. They might not give you a solution. But if there's somebody who is much more learned and who can handle issues much more broadly, they can give you some suggestions which might actually need not directly give a solutions, which might actually make your mind think and work out a solution itself, because the space is opened up. Even to think and work out a solution, you have to have space in the mind. When the mind is clogged up with an issue from all round, how can it has the capacity to think and work out a solution? It does not have a capacity. So then what happens? Even if you talk to them and even if you give them some directions which might be useful, they will not be in a position to utilize it. That is what happens. And this is typically what we see when we actually tell people about meditation. They're clogged up from all directions because they have heard so many things from so many different people about meditation. Even when you give them the right perspective, there is no space for them to take it in. So it takes a lot of time before we can actually put that seed of thought of meditation itself. Okay, that's why if you speak to 100 people, maybe around 5-10 people might show some interest in meditation. Okay, so
You can finish.
go ahead.
Uh, in the context of cleaning, how does a medicine help exactly in clearing that pathway? In
Medicine helps in decreasing the thoughts flowing in that particular channel. It does not decrease the channel itself.
But how does it target exactly at that area?
It targets through working on the neurotransmitters. So certain emotions and certain kinds of thoughts are related to certain chemicals in the brain. So when we target those chemicals, so those thoughts and emotions related to that particular chemical comes down. But it does not demolish the channel. Remember, medicine, what it does is the channels are still there. You have the conscious mind and you have the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is now so overactive that it starts impacting the functioning of the conscious mind. See, as long as the impacting of the conscious mind is not experienced, the patients do not come to the doctor for treatment. They pull along for months together, for years together, they pull along. But once the conscious mind is impacted in its functioning from the subconscious mind, issues in the subconscious mind, then they feel that they have to seek help. Then they come to the doctor. So, in simple words, if you want to look at it from a different perspective, the medicines that we give forms like a block uh, in between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So that even if the issues in the subconscious mind are still there, it ceases to have an impact because it does not reach the conscious mind. So you start feeling better, the conscious mind is working better. But then that does not solve the problem. As long as they take the medication, they feel better. But once the medications are stopped, again this block which we had created because the medication is now gone. So within few months of stopping the medication, they relapse again. They come back. So that's why many times patients keep coming back again and again in the psychiatry. That's the reason why there is this myth that once you go to a psychiatrist and start medication, you have to end up taking medication lifelong. That's a myth that is there in the population. And that's not true. There are many conditions where we can actually take the patients off the medication. So, for example, when we suggest them to actually go and meditate, what we do, we actually ask them to undergo cleaning sessions. So, when the cleaning sessions work on the subconscious mind, removing the water flowing in the channels, and also start working on demolishing the channels, in a way, it actually supplements the work of the medicine. So, they tend to recover faster and they also tend to relapse less because the channels itself have been demolished to a large extent because of the cleaning process. But of course, remember, channel demolition takes a longer time. And what happens is many patients they go to meditation for some period of time, till they feel better. Once they feel better, again they go back to the same pattern of neither taking medication nor going to meditation, undergoing cleaning. So they relapse again within few months. They come back again. So this is what we have seen. Okay, when these two things are done in tandem, taking medication and the cleaning sessions, it works the best. There are a lot of other factors which can impinge on these two things, but it gives you the best chance of working on your mind. Okay, so the other way in which the medicines work is it can liquefy solid samskaras. So somebody who is strongly attached to a particular thought, the medicines, by not allowing the chemical to reinforce this attachment to the thought, it can weaken that association or the attachment to the thought of the mind. So to that extent, you feel a bit more able or in control to modify that working on the thought. So this we see in a condition called as OCD or depression. So the patient is compelled to think in a particular way. So when we give certain medicines, that compulsion is reduced to a certain extent. So the patients can think alternatively. It opens up the possibility. Okay, that's the second thing. And the third thing that the medicines do is it can also sometimes liquefy everything. So the solidity is reduced. It can liquefy some of the samskaras. And third one is it can actually act as a block between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So these are the three ways in which the medications work from a broad perspective. I'm just giving you, this is not a medical perspective, but from a broad perspective, this is what it does. Okay. So the medications work only on the samskaras, not on the consciousness. Underline that. Medications cannot work on the consciousness. It only works on the samskaras. The cleaning process, actually, by working on the samskaras and cleaning them off, it actually uncovers or unravels the consciousness into subtler states. The consciousness is now exposed, and whatever healing power is already there in the consciousness, that also now tends to help us in our healing. I keep telling you, the healing power is already embedded in the consciousness. It automatically heals. The consciousness has the power to heal the system. But when it becomes covered up from all directions, it is clogged up. That healing power is insufficient to show its impact. So when we actually give any medications for any illness, we're actually supplementing the healing power that's already present in the consciousness. We cannot generate healing power. No medicine generates healing power for any illness. Medicines supplement the healing power which is already there in the consciousness. That which was covered from all angles and directions, which could not actually help in the healing to a large extent because the illness process was too strong, now becomes empowered to start healing because the illness process has now reduced. The illness process is nothing but the activities of the samskaras. That's all it is. Okay. Go ahead, Ganesh, you want to ask something?
Yeah.
Ganeshan has a
So,
different way of showing that he wants to ask.
uh,
But Gopal Krishna
and
has this. Ganeshan has this. Go ahead.
so the ground rule is basically one person should be ready to change. Uh, Irrespective whatever the systems he take, he should have an attitude of changing,
Correct.
and then only rest of the things can work. Rest all
Correct.
are
Correct. So when they come to the doctor, they are coming to the doctor to change without knowing that is what they are indicating. I want to change. I want the symptoms to go away. So change they may do consciously or subconsciously, but change is what they are expecting. And that's exactly what we do when we go to a lawyer, when we go to a doctor, when we go to a cinema theater. See, you are stressed out. You go to a movie. You want a change in your mood, mental state. So that's what you're looking for. So when you are feeling bored, you watch a cricket match because you want to change. So in general, it is the change that actually, the need for the change that actually drives our activities. Go ahead.
And the second one is like how the preceptors or masters cleaning will help in such case.
You can say that the channels will be reduced. See, there are multiple base levels of cleaning. No, you can do your own cleaning. You can do your cleaning with the preceptor. Then you can get the cleaning done in the satsanga. Then you can get the cleaning done in the bandara. Each one works at a deeper and deeper level. So some of this is in the cleaning sessions. For example, if you just do cleaning, to a certain extent, you can reduce the flow of the water in a particular channel. That's all it is. And you can probably flatten the initial channel formation, very shallow channels. That you can flatten by your cleaning. When you come to the perceptor, they can work at a deeper level, so they can decrease substantially the water flowing in previously established channels, but also they can demolish some of the more deeper channels. Now, this process accelerates when you go to a satsang, and then master can actually demolish very deep channels in one go during Bandara sessions. That's how it works. That's why master says, take regular sittings and then come to Bandara. Now, when you take regular sittings, you have substantially decreased the flow of the water in the channels. So you are exposing the bed, the channels. Then when master gives you sitting in Bandara, the channels are automatically demolished. Now, if you are not taking the sittings before coming to the Bandara, the water is still flowing in the channel. Now you have to slow the flow of the water. So that takes additional time. So when you take regular sittings and then attend the Bandara, it's far more easier for master to demolish the channels. Does it make sense? Now that water is now available for flowing in a different direction. Flowing in the spiritual direction. It was now flowing in the material direction. So it created samskaras. If it flows in the spiritual direction, it can actually give you more deeper and deeper understanding of spirituality, more better experience of spirituality. All these things can occur. Now, when you say flow of water, the water is nothing but the directional movement of the mind itself. That is the water. It is the mind only. That's all. The thoughts that arise in the mind. So when you get spiritual thoughts, that can deepen your understanding of spirituality. When you get material thoughts, that can deepen and then form samskaras. Gopal Krishna, don't turn to the left and he's looking for something to pop up from the left side. He's looking like this.
Even
Then
the
the question comes,
changes,
does the spiritual thought also form deep samskaras? Of course, yes. Answer is yes. So the spiritual thoughts and the spiritual conditions can also form samskaras. But the very content of the spiritual thought and the samskaras are very light in nature. So they don't form deep channels. They are subtle in nature. The spiritual thoughts are subtle in nature compared to the grosser materialistic thoughts. So the materialistic thoughts form lot more grosser samskaras. The spiritual thoughts are also form some samskaras, but they are far more subtle in nature. By very nature, it is very subtle. So eventually, when you want to go towards reality, you have to get rid of the spiritual thoughts also, spiritual samskaras also, spiritual conditions also. You want to say, I don't want this also. I am now free of both the material thing and the spiritual thing. I want to now get established in reality. That is what happens. Compared to materiality, you feel spirituality is better. But compared to reality, spiritualities are not better. So you want to get rid of spirituality also at that time. Then go towards reality. Okay, that's what happens in the end. So in a way, the spirituality is a kind of a springboard for you to leap into reality. Does it make sense? Otherwise, Gopal Krishna was searching for the question, both left direction, right direction.
I have one more question.
One more question. See, he looked at left side, one question came. Right side, one more question. So you don't keep looking anywhere. You keep looking here straight. Go ahead.
So there are a lot of people who have uh, a positive, from their perspective, a positive flow of thoughts as well. Like I'm good, I attract good things, or those kind of things that they have made a channel for. So would that also be a sort of like a burden for them?
Definitely. Anything where the effort is involved, anything you are doing consciously, you have to remind yourself. All these things actually create channel formation. It might make you feel good, but it's still a channel. Eventually, that also will actually go. What we actually eventually exhibit is the positive, innate positivity that the soul carries. Now, the innate positivity that the soul carries does not require the channels of the mind to be experienced. It's inherently present in the soul. Just the presence of the soul has that innate positive impact on the mind, working of the mind. And that innate positivity is not going to. Innate positivity of the soul is not positive thought. It's just a positive state. That's all. No thought, no channel. That is what happens. So when we get established more and more closer to the soul, we exhibit that innate positivity of the soul. Okay. There is no need, just the presence of that soul which is felt to that extent you are positive. You don't require a positive thought, nor you require a positive thought channel. Both are unnecessary. They are at the level of the mind. But we experience positivity at the mind by the presence of the soul itself, which is innately positive. So spirituality takes you to that state where there is no need for positive thinking. Positive thinking is a conscious effort. And we say that in meditation, everything should manifest effortlessly. Remember? So, what is meditation? Effortless focus, we said. So, everything happens effortlessly.
So, irrespective of any practice, at the end, they have to follow this. There is no other alternative, right?
Correct. All practices are different in how they tackle these things. That's all. But the fundamental thing to tackle is work on the samskaras, clear the consciousness of the samskaras, unravel the consciousness so that it can become more and more subtle, and then we evolve spiritually. That is a fundamental formula. How do you go about doing it? Varies depending on which kind of practice you follow, which system you follow. That's all it is. Okay. Hmm. Now, before another question pops up in Gopal Krishna's mind, he is also again looking at left. So we'll continue now. If you want to change yourself, you cannot focus on the thing that you want to change. That only strengthens the very tendency you want to do away with. Many parents know this. When training young children, we often give them negative commands. In many ways, we say, you should not do this, should not do this, avoid that. Does it work? It usually makes them more obstinate. It's better to simply divert their attention rather than saying no chocolate. We say, let's have this instead. Instead of focusing on the negative, we focus on the positive. Instead of resolving not to tell lies, we simply tell the truth. But when the tendencies are strong, this approach also fails. So, diversion tactic. So, one of the things that you people need to know is when you become parents is to know how to divert the child's attention. So, too many negative things actually make the child focus on that thing only. Okay. You see, we must tackle our problems at the deepest level, the subconscious level. This is where the root of the problems are. However, subconscious means beneath consciousness. That means the subconscious is largely inaccessible to conscious manipulation. Underline that. The subconscious is inaccessible for conscious manipulation. That's exactly the trouble when we go to psychology sessions. Because we are trying to tackle something which is at the subconscious level by consciously manipulating it when it is not available, accessible for conscious manipulation. We can change deliberate action, but subconscious action, it is subliminal. It occurs beneath the scope of our awareness. When we are barely even aware of something, how can we possibly change it? This is the biggest hurdle that we face when trying to work upon ourselves. So, dealing with subliminal thoughts requires a unique approach, I said. Absolutely, said Daji. We do not generally realize the extent to which the subconscious affects our daily experience. We are unaware of its enormous influence and the way in which it drives our conscious awareness from moment to moment. But it's not a one way relationship in which our conscious thoughts are mere products of the subconscious influences. Rather than the relationship is cyclic. The conscious thoughts affect the subconscious processes affects the conscious thoughts. One way to understand the interaction between the subconscious mind and the conscious thoughts is by comparing it to a garden. A conscious thought is like a seed sown into the fertile ground of the subconscious. Please underline this. You remember this I explained to you when we talked about constant remembrance. Put single thought of divinity into the fertile ground of the subconscious and gradually it will flower into constant remembrance. That seed that germinates in the subconscious. Eventually, it blossoms into the conscious awareness and becomes an enduring pattern of similar thoughts. Just as a single seed produces a tree from which thousands of new seeds are grown, a single thought can grow into a tendency of thinking through which we produce thousands of new thought seeds. Underline that. So, one thought produces a thought seed, thought tree. When you get thousands of thought seeds, you can see how our consciousness can easily turn into a complex jungle. So a single thought is sufficient to make it into a jungle over a period of time. The cleaning method hits at the very root. It is not about understanding or consciously reprogramming our habits of thinking and pattern. Instead, it works directly upon the subconscious. It's like weeding a garden. Whatever we pull up, whenever we pull up weeds, we must be sure that we pull them out from the seeds, roots. If the roots remain in the ground, the weeds will continue to sprout over and over again. Similarly, whatever we have already planted in the subconscious will continue to sprout in the form of thoughts and emotions. Until we deal with those roots, our attempts at transformation often lead to frustration because you are not pulling it out from the roots. So it keeps coming up again and again. Daji paused. We have now referred to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras on the number of occasions. So far, we have spoken about each of the 8 steps except for the first one, which is the Yama. Yama refers to the removal of the unwanted tendency. Underline that. Yama refers to the removal of the unwanted tendencies. This is exactly what we achieve with the cleaning method. Through meditation, we create an inner environment where unwanted seeds cannot take root. But it is through the cleaning method that we fry up the existing seeds and pull out the complex root structures already embedded so deeply within. So now he's giving the difference between what happens in meditation and what happens in cleaning. In meditation, we create an inner environment where unwanted seeds cannot take root. That's the purpose. We are changing the field itself. But in cleaning process, what we are doing, we fry up the existing seeds and pull out the complex root structure already embedded so deeply within. So that's why the meditation and the cleaning process complement one another. Okay. Then yogic philosophy, the thought seeds that have already been planted in our subconscious are known as samskaras or impressions. Underline. What are samskaras? The thought seeds which have already been planted in the subconscious are called as samskaras or impressions. Does every thought end up taking root in the subconscious and becoming an impression? I asked. It is the thought's emotional content that gets planted. Underline. It is the thought, it is not the thought itself that takes root. It is the thought's emotional content that makes it capable of taking root, not the thought itself. A samskara is your emotional memory. Underline. Another definition of samskara. The samskara is your emotional memory. It is the emotion associated with that particular thought. We may not retain that memory at a conscious level. We may not retain the existential memory, but its emotional content certainly remains with us. So the emotional content goes on increasing over a period of time because we accumulate emotional content. We might forget why actually we felt happy, why we felt sad. That's why during the cleaning process, when some of these emotions are removed, they cry, they feel anxious, they feel angry. they feel anger or anxiety or sadness. They cry, but they don't know why they are crying. They don't know why they feel anxious. They don't know why they feel angry. Because the original thought which gave rise to that emotion is now gone out of memory. Only the emotional content remains. So when the emotional content is cleaned, you undergo the experience of the emotion again, but the thought which gave rise to that emotion is no longer there. Does it make sense? So the thought content can be removed separate versus the emotional content. Emotional content comes later on. And many times we will not even know why we are experiencing certain emotions during the cleaning. Because the thought content associated has been removed earlier. Okay? Most of the time, that emotional content remains dormant. It is hidden away from in the subconscious. However, when we encounter a situation that resonates with that particular emotion, that emotional content gets triggered. Unlike that, when we encounter a situation that resonates with that particular emotion, that emotional state gets triggered. This produces similar thoughts to the parent thought, the thought with which the emotion was originally associated. When thoughts and emotions become repetitive, our actions become habitual. Okay, so let's stop here now. Any questions we'll take tomorrow. It's coming up to 7:16. So the next batch is waiting, the Kannada batch. Okay. So quite nice. There are a lot of things. So they will ask you what is emotions. They'll ask you about the impact of cleaning on yama. Yama is removal of the unwanted tendency. Okay. When our body and mind, body becomes full of samskaras, yama comes in to remove the burden of the body of samskaras that we are carrying. That is what yama is. Like in yama, we remove unwanted tendencies. So yama comes in to remove the unwanted samskaras in the body. So he'll make you shut the body here and then he takes you with him. Okay. He recycles you back again and comes back, puts you back here. There are a lot of movies, where Yama has taken the wrong body and wrong recycling. There are quite a few funny movies on this particular theme. So anyway, Bhulokadalli Yamaraja was one of the movie in Kannada. I think pretty much you will probably have very similar movies in other languages also. Where Yamadiki Mogudu. I think that's also another movie, no?
Yeah.
Telugu movie.
Telugu movie.
Chiranjeevi.
No, yeah, correct.
Chiranjeevi, I think.
Okay.
Yamadiki Mogudu. So Mogudu means Aliya. That means son-in-law. So Yamadiki Mogudu means he becomes the son-in-law of Yama. So very funny movie. Okay. So I don't know about Tamil because these two movies I had come across. So I'm just giving this. So Tamil also definitely there will be some movies.
There should be something, yeah.
The theme being Emma comes and then takes out the wrong body, a wrong life, and then he is now wondering where to put this life back in. So looking for a new body. So
There is one movie, Yamalila. There is one more movie, Yamalila in Telugu.
I've heard of that also.
Basically, the Kubera will have lost his book. It would have fallen
Exactly.
in the air.
The same movie is dubbed in Hindi also.
It's there in Tamil also.
The Chitragupta has lost the book, not Kubera.
Lost the
Chitragupta.
book. Sorry, Chitragupta. Sorry.
Okay. And so they come to earth in search of the book.
Correct.
Anyways, no problem. Seripa, we'll catch up again
Okay.
tomorrow at same time. Okay? 6:30.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day.
Thank you.